Sometimes a relationship doesn't begin with fireworks. Sometimes it begins with conversations. A few minutes here, a phone call there, a shared laugh, a thoughtful gesture, a person showing up when they don't have to. When Mary first met John, she hadn't been interested. She had plans, goals, a future she was determined to build. But somewhere between the conversations, the encouragement, and the kindness, something changed. Without either of them realizing it, they had begun building something they felt remarkably rare. Trust. And trust has a way of making people imagine a future together. At the time, that future seemed closer than ever.
Don't play with it, don't be dishonest. Still not understanding.
After their second meeting, Mary found herself looking forward to hearing from John. The conversations became more frequent. What began as occasional chats turned into regular conversations and discussions about life, education, and ambition. Mary had always been drawn to intelligent people, not people who simply spoke a lot, not people who wanted attention, but people who would think, people who challenged ideas, people who saw possibilities where others saw obstacles. John was one of those people. Whenever they spoke, the conversation felt effortless. One topic would lead to another. A discussion about university would become a debate about the future. A conversation about current events will become a discussion about dreams and purpose. For Mary, that intellectual connection mattered. It made her pay attention. As her university workload increased, John became one of her greatest supporters. There were assignments, research topics, presentations, deadlines, the endless pressure that comes with trying to achieve good results. Whenever she felt overwhelmed, John was there, sometimes offering ideas, sometimes helping her think through problems, sometimes simply reminding her that she was capable. The support never felt forced. It felt natural. The kind of support that quietly becomes part of a person's life until they can no longer imagine life without it. As the months passed, their friendship deepened. There were occasional lunches, conversations that lasted longer than planned, moments that neither of them considered important at the time, but which later became cherished moments. One evening, John invited Mary to a jazz club. It wasn't the sort of place Mary normally spent time. The atmosphere was different. Soft lighting, gentle music, people sitting quietly listening rather than speaking. For a few hours, life seemed to slow down. They talked, they laughed, they listened to the music, and Mary found herself seeing another side of John, away from university discussions, away from career plans, away from responsibilities, just two people enjoying each other's company. Looking back, she would remember that evening for years, not because something dramatic happened, but because it felt peaceful, comfortable, easy, the kind of evening that leaves a quiet mark on your memory. By then, John had completed university and was beginning to establish himself professionally. His career was progressing. Opportunities were appearing, and he seemed determined to make the most of them. At that point, his work required him to travel abroad. For the first time since they had become close, there was distance between them. The separation wasn't long, but it surprised Mary. She found herself missing their conversations, missing the encouragement, missing the familiar presence that had become part of her routine. When John eventually returned, he could easily have gone home and rested. Instead, he went to see Mary. He came directly to the university. Mary still remembered that visit, the excitement of seeing him again, the ease with which they slipped back into conversation, the feeling that his absence has revealed something she hadn't previously admitted to herself. She cared about him more than she realized. That afternoon, John drove her to a lecture. Before she left the car, they talked about everything and nothing. The future, university, work, dreams, ordinary things. Yet somehow, those ordinary moments felt important. After her lecture, he returned and picked her up. They went for lunch, a simple meal, a simple afternoon. But years later, it would remain one of the memories she treasured most. Not because of where they went, but because of how she felt. Seen, valued, important. As time passed, another challenge emerged. Mary needed to move from her university accommodation to a new place. Like most students, she assumed it would be stressful. Boxes, furniture, transport, logistics, the usual chaos that comes with moving. During a conversation, she casually mentioned the situation to John. She wasn't asking for help. She was simply talking. John listened, as he always did. A few days later, Mary discovered that John had quietly spoken to several of his friends. On moving day, vehicles arrived, people arrived, help arrived. What Mary expected to be a difficult day became surprisingly easy. The move was completed efficiently, smoothly, without the stress she had anticipated. Mary was deeply touched, not because John had carried every box himself, but because he had cared enough to solve the problem. He had listened, taken action, and made her life easier. That moment stayed with her because it revealed something important about his character. John wasn't just someone who made promises. He was someone who showed up. The relationship continued to grow. Meanwhile, John's professional life was advancing. Then came the opportunity that changed everything. A chance to rebuild the future abroad. The sort of opportunity many young professionals dreamed about. Excitement filled their conversations. Possibilities suddenly seemed endless. What had once been vague discussions about the future became practical plans. Marriage, a home together, a life together, a future overseas. For the first time, the dream felt real. Friends supported them. Family supported them. The future seemed clear, predictable, hopeful. Everything appeared to be moving in exactly the right direction. Mary was completing university. John was building a promising career. And together, they were creating plans that stretched far beyond the lives they had currently knew. Looking back, it felt like one of the happiest seasons of her life. A season filled with certainty, a season filled with possibility, a season where everything seemed to be falling perfectly into place, or so it appeared. One of the easiest mistakes people make is assuming that a relationship is built on grand gestures, but often it is the small things that matter most. The phone calls, the encouragement, the unexpected help, the simple moments that quietly communicate, "You matter to me." Those are often the moments that stay with us longest. Have you ever fallen for someone because of the little things they did rather than the big things they said? Share your story in the comments. And if you're enjoying Mary's journey, subscribe and follow because the next chapter changes everything. The future was planned. The conversations had been had. The dreams felt close enough to touch. Marriage no longer felt like a distant possibility. It felt inevitable. Then came the day they were supposed to take the next step, a day that had been carefully arranged, a day neither of them intended to miss. And somehow, neither of them arrived. Episode 3, the day they never arrived.